Hey guys, it's Bean, and I'm here to do my recent reads video. So as you have seen before, we did switch it so that each of us are going to have our own individual recent reads video, just because we're reading so much right now. So, to start off, it is a book that y'all know that we read, but I read Illuminae by Amy Kaufman and Kristoff. I gave this book a 5 out of 5. I absolutely loved it. I was a little worried about the style in which it's written, and if you don't know, it's written kind of in different text messages, in surveillance footage, as well as in different reports at this space station. And so this one was probably one of my favorite starts to a series that I have read recently, and I was very pleasantly surprised with it. Moving on, I also got through all of Gemina, and this one I also kind of binged in one sitting, and Callie got nice updated texts every time I read something, and I would text her my feelings because of all the feels in these books. Also, in Gemina, I think I met my favorite characters. My favorite character, I'm pretty sure, is Nick. So, we're just going to leave that there. If you don't know who he is, you'll figure it out. So, I will be moving on to Obsidio probably this weekend, if not next week. The next book that I read was the first nonfiction that I read this month. It's called Quiet, The Power of Introverts in a World That Can't Stop Talking by Susan Cain. This one I listened to on audiobook, and it's all about introverts versus extroverts and kind of how those two have evolved over time and how they get along and how you can kind of have traits of both. I thought it was very interesting. It was a relaxing read, and I really enjoyed it quite a bit. The next book that I read was another nonfiction, and it was ThePoisoner's Handbook, Murder in the Birth of Forensic Medicine in Jazz Age New York by Deborah Blum. This book I knew I was going to like because it is a crime book, a true crime book, and it follows different poisons that are used throughout the Jazz Age in New York, so flapper time, and about how forensic medicine develops and how all of this is kind of discovered and that kind of sort of thing. It's very interesting. It's very dense at points because there's a lot of science in this book, but I really enjoyed it. Alright, so the next two books that I read were both actually novellas, and I got these novellas from Tor.com. They send out a monthly newsletter, and I am subscribed to them, so they also send out one book a month. And the book this month was actually 4 novellas. I have gotten halfway through. I have read 2 of them. And because of that, they are ebooks, so I don't have a copy, so I'm actually looking at my phone so I know what they're called. The first one is called The Lamb Will Slaughter the Lion, and it's the first book in a series by Margaret Killjoy. Now, this one is actually a bit of a post-apocalyptic book, and it's very interesting. All of these novellas follow LGBTQ plus characters, which I think is really quite neat. And this one follows a girl who has recently basically decided that she's asexual. She doesn't want to have any sort of physical relationship with a person, but she's still attracted to this girl that she meets in town. However, what this is in this post-apocalyptic world, basically she's searching for a reason as to why her best friend killed himself. And when she comes across the town of Freedom, Ohio, which is where he had lived for the longest time, she discovers this magic that has been taking place there. And what her friend had done before he left was they brought forth a demon, which is basically, okay, just go with me on this. It's a deer with 3 antlers that eats the hearts of everything around. Yeah. I'm just going to leave it right there because that's basically the plot of the story, is her trying to figure out what's going on with this thing. I give this one a 5 out of 5. The next novella that I read was Passing Strange by Ellen Klags, and this one was actually kind of cute. It followed the beginning half. The first half is the only part I'm going to talk about because the second half is basically learning the history of this woman. And it follows this 90-something-year-old woman who goes and has her final day in town, and she's going around, and she ends up going to this book dealer's house where he deals in rare books, and she ends up trying to sell him this super rare painting and gets a lot of money for it, and it's a whole thing, but it's really quite cute. But I did give this one a 4.5 out of 5. It was a lot of fun. The ending dragged a little bit, but not a lot, so I just thought it was good at the first half, and then they added another half. So the last book that I read in this recent reads video is going to be Rebel with a Cupcake by Mainwaring. And now this one I actually gave a 2.5 out of 5. And it's not because this isn't a good book. I feel like I need to say that straight out. But this book, I got bored. And this one is definitely geared towards like 8th grade, an 8th grade readers area. So it's like just going into high school. This book talks a lot about fat shaming. It talks a lot about figuring yourself out and a relationship with food. This follows our main character, Jess, who herself has labeled herself as a fat girl, and she loves food, she loves eating, and she loves making food for her friends. However, when one of the mean girls at her all-girls school makes a comment at her and starts really harassing her about her weight, she starts to doubt herself. So and then there's boys involved. She has a crush on this boy who is really quite an ass, and you kind of see it right away. So I was kind of just underwhelmed by this plot. It was a very quick read. It's 200 pages, so it's not a long book. I would recommend it for middle school, high school aged, but once you get past that, it really just kind of feels very juvenile. So those are the books that I have read since our last video. It's not a lot, but I had about like 2.5 weeks to get through these, and so I think I did pretty well considering. What I'm currently reading is this. My bookmark got in the way. And this is Eeny, Meeny by M.J. Arlidge. And this is the first book in a series about a detective inspector. And this one is quite intense so far. So look forward to my review on this one coming up. And that's all I have for you today. So if you like this video, please give it a thumbs up and subscribe. If you want to be notified whenever we post new videos, which is Tuesday, Thursday, and Sundays, you can hit the little bell icon and you will be notified. So in the description, we have all the links you could ever want that include all of our joint Instagram, our individual Instagrams, along with our Goodreads, because we spend way too much time on that website, as well as my blog is also down there where you can see reviews of at least a couple of the books that I have reviewed here today. So if you have any comments, please leave them below. I'd love to hear your recommendations or your thoughts. And that's all I got for you today. Bye!